Welcome back to the best Draw for Initiative podcast there is, with another episode, with another question, and with another set of answers that may or may not be for the question I'm asking.
God.
We hope it's for the question I'm asking, but we will find out in about a second. So let's see what we have here. No.
Does it hurt sometimes? I'm just wondering.
I don't know. Again, stroke?
Alright.
Go.
Let me ask you about media. Would you like to change it up?
Oh, bad question.
That's really, I mean, for you, I would, if I would answer for you, I would say yes. If I would answer for myself, I say I don't know. I don't know if I would. I want.
And before totally clueless question marks, media in this case means the medium you use for
watercolor
creating.
and ink. That's what we settled for.
This is not going to be a stage play on Broadway. As
No, because it's on the other.
Funny idea, probably unrealistic in execution. The kabuki theater.
Oh God!
Thing
no.
Of
well,
painting.
the thing is, board games and Draw for Initiative got quite illustration-y in style.
That's a word in some languages.
So
That's
watercolor
the actual word for it.
Watercolor and ink kind of fits. I'm not sure oils, colored pencils maybe. But I'm not sure if acrylics or pastels or oil would actually fit with the subject.
I honestly feel like we already changed some stuff with the Tombos. They are.
It's ink.
Well, yeah, there's ink in them, but it's not the same. Now you're getting that.
Let me see if I still go.
Let
go
me
on
present you evidence piece.
No, I'm looking if I still there's because it says Tombow ink marker.
Yeah, there's
made in Vietnam.
I mean,
Acid free.
So maybe let's start this question by something more elementary. What is the medium you are using so far? It's mostly ink?
Watercolor and ink.
Ink for the outlines, usually, not always.
Okay.
And watercolor for the rest.
And
these are watercolor based, so.
Yeah, they're ink, but you can. They're very special markers that you can dissolve the. You can either have it like a marker, like really solid layer of color, or you can dissolve it with water and have the watercolor really look, though it's ink that you're painting with. So these are the two media that we set, watercolors and ink. Mm-hmm. And no matter if you have watercolor pencils or use watercolor pens, or use ink markers, or use like these ink bottles and have a nib that you draw with, we didn't limit that.
For me, that's the point. I felt when we first used the watercolor pencils, it was the first time that I was wondering, well, that was not what I really had in mind when you said that. I was fine with it, don't get me wrong, but it felt a little to me like cheating on the actual, because when I was thinking about watercolors, I was thinking about this Schminke or the Kuretake that you have, that you usually use a brush on, and
like pens like that. This
you usually use that with the brush and water, and with the ink I was with the pen I use with the nibs. That was my thing that I had in mind, but I still was happy when we also used that other things, because it gave me new ways to approach those things, and it made it easier in some regards to achieve that, because trust me on that, if you try to make detailed paintings with a brush, you get insane sooner or later.
At least with watercolors, it has a mind of its own. You have to really know how the watercolor works, how it flows. It's difficult.
Has there been a moment where maybe you said, I would really, really like to paint this in acrylics,
no,
because that would be easier? Or are you are you?
I do like watercolors a lot, though. I'm a sucker for watercolors.
But then maybe was there some mechanical thing where you would like to have something that allows you to have more texture, not texture. What's it called? More 3D like effect,
like layers.
Yes, like a
that would be for some paintings, like for example the Space Cadets. I hate one thing about watercolors, and that is masking fluid. It takes forever to dry. And you cannot go at it with a heat gun or a blow dryer, otherwise you will never ever remove that masking fluid from the paper again. So you have to wait until the masking fluid air dries, then you paint, then you have to wait for the paint to dry and like really dry, not just to the touch, but really dry through for the paper, and then you can remove it and keep painting the rest. So I hate that, and sometimes I wish that you would have the layering abilities of oils or acrylics for that. But you don't, so you work around it and you have a different style, I think, or at least I do. I would sometimes like to, some drawings of paintings for some games I would like to make with Copics, but that's only a few drawings, and that would be ghost stories, for example. I think I would like to do that with the Copics, which are alcohol markers that you can blend very smoothly. They're like the manga markers. And sometimes I wish for that, but usually, since I love watercolor so much, I sometimes get rid of the ink and just watercolor, but I do love watercolor. So I'm not missing anything.
So you're not... How to put this? You would prefer sometimes other media because you think it would be faster in handling, but you don't feel like it limits you artistically in what you want to present.
No, because even if I don't want the watercolor-y look, I can go with ink and have it solidly opaque, kind of cartoon-ish, and not have gradient changes from colors or less opaque, more opaque. I can just go with solid ink. But I don't. I like the watercolor-y look, so I'm not limited there.
So this gave you ample of time to think about what you want to answer to that question.
Did you get that?
Since you wanted to say something like 5 minutes ago already.
Sorry.
Well, I got used to the watercolors. It's all right, and I still have ink if I can't achieve something with watercolors. At some points, I guess the pictures would have turned out quite differently if I had the chance to do something different. For example, viticulture. The alternative for that picture I drew would have been a landscape of those wine... How do you call it? Vineyards, yeah. Maybe I would have approached that, and maybe with acrylics, because I would never have been able to do that like you did. I have to say it again, I love her viticulture picture, really. Or, for example, I have some more experience with the charcoal or with graphite pencil in different strengths, and so sometimes it would come more naturally to work in those media. But as Sarah said, I'm quite fine with doing it as we do it now. Also, that limitation also is a chance for me to do some things, because I wouldn't go the easy way always.
Yeah.
It would sometimes be easier to use something else, but if I always go the easy way, it's not as interesting.
Yeah, you're really stretching your artistic muscles with that medium. You're pretty much learning from scratch, which is like totally awesome. But I mean, it must be scary or terrifying at some times.
In the first times I was always like, oh, with oil it would have been like this, and I can't do this. And I was first I had a hard time to getting into that, but now I know what I can do and what I can't, and then there are some things between that where I'm not sure, which is when I'm trying, and it keeps it interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
So on a imaginary, since you tend to name your shows all after the days, on a Magic Media Monday, where you could go with your favorite media for Draw for Initiative, which would be the one you'd go for if you can choose freely and don't have to go with watercolor and ink? And now, if any of you says watercolor and ink, I will call them out for going the easy route, selecting that for Draw for Initiative.
Okay, then I call it mixed media. Mixed media Magic Monday.
Whoa.
A lot of M's. I would maybe get rid of the ink. But
Needs more color, less ink, less line work.
I do have very brightly colored inks, so that's not the problem there. But I do like the illustration-y kind of a style that we have with Draw for Initiative, and that screams watercolors for me. So I'd say I'd stay with watercolors. If I would have to choose another medium, I would either say colored pencils or Copic markers.
And is that also your favorite medium in general? Or?
No. I'm not having a favorite medium per se.
It's a tool for the job.
I'm loving I love certain media for certain things. Tina recently, I think it was February or March, said, I'm missing the mixed media stuff you do on the channel, because for the first half of this year, I'm focusing on one medium each month. That will change for the second half of the year, but I seem to, if I don't limit myself with supplies like ink only or watercolor only, I seem to gravitate towards mixed media. So I'm taking the medium that I can work with best for a certain thing that I want to accomplish. So I don't say I'm only loving oils and shit the rest of the media I'm not going to use more. I'm not like that. Ooh, I like the gradient watercolor-y kind of thing, but I do like the layering of the acrylics. Pattern paper. So I'm like that. And yeah.
What would be
long-winded
your
answer?
magic media?
Indecisive woman.
I'm sorry.
Depending on the game, probably, but I'd love to try something like that in oil. Just simply oil.
There might be. Maybe we'll have a special episode at one point. Not the baby oil, honey. And again, I have to. That kind of oil color.
That's actually a tube.
It's oil paints.
In there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but just simply because I didn't paint in oil lately. So, but I got these beautiful colors, and I just feel like trying it more. After those years, I couldn't do it at all. So. Yeah.
Is there a medium any of you haven't tried at all, or find too intimidating, or
oil paints? For one, if you ask why, for one, I'm not patient, and if I cannot take my blow dryer or heat gun to a medium, I don't really like it. And there's this thing called acrylics, which dries really fast, so I never had the urge to try oils. However, there's also one other thing that we found out that I researched meanwhile on the net. We can probably work around it, but if I have even the slightest inkling of maybe in 2 weeks I get a migraine, I cannot have oils in here. The fumes, it's just right away I'm sick really badly.
We
Then
need to get a new studio for you to
no. There's other paint thinners or cleaning liquids or mixing media like what do we use? That's
Turpentine?
No. That's
Steht es nicht drauf?
No, we refilled it into the other bottle because the other one was broken. But it's a natural oil that you also use for cooking. like Leinsam. I forgot what it is.
Leinsam.
No, it's the thing that we have in the bread. Anyway, now I forgot.
You have so much in your
It's
bread.
called linseed now because
The thing, yeah. So the oil is fine, but the cleaning thingy was not great, and I got a migraine, so I researched. We can work around it. But that was one thing that pretty much stopped me from even trying those.
Yeah.
Even that they are in the studio, I didn't try oils ever yet. And oil pastels are kind of maybe a thing that I want to expand on soonish. Let's say soonish.
Well, for the question about oil, I think you don't really necessarily need to be patient with oil, but you need to be able to, with the wet surface, just go with it and work with it and have the colors mesh up, and it's all right in certain points.
From what I've seen so far, it seems to be really difficult to glaze over a wet background, and then I fear I get mud, and so I'm not touching it. Don't touch this.
So, do you have any medium you haven't tried at all ever?
Mixed media. I'm not into that basteln. Crafting. I'm not.
That's
really,
what it's called.
I'm not really into that. Oh, I'm gluing a piece of colored paper there and doing there, and I'm not into that. I'm also not capable of thinking a different media at once. It's two with the watercolor and ink is more than enough for me.
Oh well. So
it just needs more planning and knowledge about the material.
It's actually more intuitive that your hand sometimes grabs the medium that you want and you're not really deciding. So mixed media, I feel sometimes actually easier because just grab something, do something with it.
Well, I'd like for you not to change the media too much and stay with us at least for the next week when we will have our final question. We also won't switch up the media, so we won't send you a letter next week instead of a video. We'll stay on YouTube. I was
thinking about pigeons.
And doing that. So, see you again next week.